subscribe and hit the bell notification.
Already appeared, and by the end of this message, you are going to know exactly what it was. You've been carrying something that doesn't have a name yet, and knowing that it's just beneath the surface of your daily life, too real to dismiss, too quiet for most people to understand. It's that persistent and subtle dissonance, that feeling of standing on the precipice of something significant, yet undefined. It's the blessing of destiny, that shows what is chosen one's blueprint. It captures everything we teach in this space. It gives us return to the the very thing God uses to mark you. The divine signature that sets you apart is often the same thing that makes your life feel like it doesn't fit. It's like you've been given a unique key that looks around you. Conversations that fill the air, narratives that seem to
It's my fun jovial rip-off.
If it's not a defect in your design,
you should get your money back.
Mark of distinction, a celestial signature that speaks of your unique celebration.
Oh yeah, I blame him.
Moses, he was raised in the opulent splendor of an Egyptian palace, surrounded by the trappings of power and privilege. Yet he never truly felt like he belonged to that gilded cage. He had access to everything the most advanced civilization of his time could offer. Something deep within him, an unshakable presence kept pulling him toward the suffering of the Hebrew people. The people who were no longer supposed to be his people by societal definition. That profound restlessness, that deep-seated empathy that transcended his adopted status, wasn't dysfunction. It was divine orientation. God was already turning his face, aligning his soul to
The dinner is the same.
the discomfort he experienced was not a side of the active calibration of his internal compass. The very thing Moses couldn't ignore, the plight of his people, the injustice he witnessed, was the undeniable magnetic pull that ultimately led him to the awe-inspiring spectacle of the burning bush, the sacred threshold of his divine calling. You've had your own burning bushes, moments that stopped you dead in your tracks, not with fear, but with an undeniable sense of sacred urgency. Conversations that arrived at precisely the right moment, like heavenly orchestrated encounters, imparting wisdom and revelation you desperately needed. Dreams that felt less like flights of fancy and more like direct downloads from the divine. Blueprints for your future. Losses that didn't just break you, but broke you up, shattering your preconceived notions and revealing a deeper, more resilient core. Those were not random occurrences, nor mere coincidences scattered haphazardly across the landscape of your life. Those were celestial blueprints, divine blueprints that you must navigate. Heaven doesn't speak in accidents. Its language is one of deliberate design and profound purpose. Every disruption, every unexpected turn, every single setback in your life is carrying an inherent direction, a subtle, powerful current guiding you forward. As with this profound truth, once you begin to see your own story through this divine lens, something fundamental shifts in the way you perceive your own existence, your own journey. But here's where it goes deeper, and this is the crucial aspect that too many people, caught in the echo chamber of the familiar, skip right over. It is simply not enough
he wants fraud on top of the washing machine.
is not to join in becoming chartered confirmed by external authorities. Instead, it comes with an internal compass, so much requires only you resonates with it very deeply, and this inherent nature of the chosen path means that at some critical juncture you become fully have irrefutable proof.
Let's say that through the way up and
Yes,
this power
the unfolding vision of a complete picture fully materializes. Consider Abraham. He didn't depart from Haran with a precise destination address programmed into his GPS. He left with a divine direction, a clear sense of where to go, even at the end of the trail. The directive was simple yet profound. Just go. Reveal the next steps as you walk. This is not an act of recklessness or blind faith. It is the specific, potent kind of trust that ignites divine momentum. The kind of surrender that unlocks the heavens and sets the gears of destiny in motion. And this leads us to a profound those even most enemies and seekers. God is meticulously preparing you for is not merely geographical or circumstantial. It is not simply a transition to a new city or a different job or a new relationship. At its core, it is a movement out of an old, outdated version of yourself. The place you are being called to leave is not always a physical location. Sometimes it is a limiting mindset, a deeply ingrained perspective that has restricted your potential. At other times, it is a familiar pattern of suffering, a comfortable misery that has become a false sense of security. And frequently, it is a narrative you have been telling yourself for so long, a story so often past events and present insecurities that it has become indistinguishable from your very identity. And coming up next, we will explore a deeply entrenched pattern that has been quietly anchoring your feet to the ground, preventing you from stepping into the future God has been calling you to. Stay with me, because understanding this aspect is the key that unlocks true transformation, the very element that changes everything. There is an agreement you have been living under, a covenant woven into the fabric of your subconscious that you did not consciously sign. It was written not in ink on parchment, but in the indelible language of your deepest longings and earliest hurts. It whispered insidious pronouncements like, "You are too much, an overwhelming presence. You are not enough, fundamentally lacking and inadequate. People like you don't get to achieve that."
In the morning, I opened that side window, around the pool, morning table
so consistently, so relentlessly, and so early in your development that you gradually ceased to hear them as external lies and began to absorb them as your own internal truth. You stopped fighting the perceived ceiling of your existence because you ceased to even recognize it as a ceiling. You began to call it your unalterable reality. But the crucial distinction that must be understood is this: reality and divine revelation are not the same thing. What appears as an immutable, permanent fixture when viewed from the limited view of your current perspective looks entirely different, entirely surmountable. The elevated altitude of divine perspective that heaven is inviting you to ascend, and what is coming next will likely surprise you. As profound shifts in divine interventions invariably come, because it is often very painful, demonstrated with unwavering faith during periods of waiting.
from this phone to my new phone, and talking without even having a call anymore.
Profoundly afraid of a breakthrough when it finally arrives. Their fears are falling short. It is a deep-seated
I am totally sold on Samsung. Samsung is the quality stuff.
season genuinely shifts, they will not possess the inner
Now you gotta watch in your email
maturity to inhabit the person
our
that they
doctor's
to
office.
become
Yeah.
on the other
I
side
had
of
a
that
pre-registered
transition.
for
And so,
Tuesday's visit.
without even
I had to
consciously
fill out all
realizing
the
it,
stuff that
they
we were
engage
asking
in
questions.
Oh yeah, they get a question there, yeah.
And then they sit in their phone, I'm like,
rebellion
so you have to have your phone right
It
by
is
you
the
and you
unconscious
get your
response to
code and put it back in and you can do all the
residual
pre-registered now.
belief that they do not
Well, I don't have to do the code, the face comes in email, I can look at the
They keep the
email.
divine blessing
I
at
put on the
arm's
phone.
length because fully receiving it will necessitate a profound transformation.
And he said in about an hour or two. And that's when I told him,
Process of
we need to
becoming
go.
someone new,
Because I don't want to sit there with no
gentle,
need.
sometimes painful release of someone familiar, a version of themselves they have known
But he was really, really nice. He explained everything to me. They can use the oxygen. She had pneumonia in her lungs.
Yeah.
Spaces
They
of
can use
soul.
oxygen to
Because
breathe.
this is the precise juncture where transformation transcends the intellectual and becomes deeply personal. The signboard is
Came all the
presented
way
to
into
you
Mount
right now.
Sinai.
Unmistakable indicator, a divine signal that has been sounded
They called
by
David, and David
longest
gave me the
intensity
phone, and I talked to the lady, and she says, as soon as this says approved, if you get that part, then she will get her oxygen and she can go. And then she's okay, she's free. Go home now. I'm thinking, she's not even a nurse.
invitation to receive and receiving in its purest form requires a practice that many in this current season have not yet cultivated.
That idiot governor, that's why. That's the people's show. Yes.
The king's table with aggressive demands and manipulative tactics. She meticulously prepared herself. She walked into the king's presence without arrogance, and she stood there with her life and the fate of her
Well, that's what company is like this. When you go to the hall of the governor, come to another governor. As soon as you get that, it's like, oh no. I knew that was good, because it's somebody kept control of all those things. The only good thing about that, though, is it looks like California's going to lose that government. Wolf is out in the car, he can't run again anyway. What's that?